My daughter replaced me with her stepdad on her graduation dice, so I walked away quietly and took everything she thought she controlled. I'm a 46-year-old man, and for most of my daughter's life, it's just been the two of us. When my ex-wife Laura walked out 16 years ago, Emily was only 4. I still remember the night she left Emily clutching her teddy bear at the top of the stairs, asking if Mommy was coming back. I promised her everything would be okay, even though I had no idea how I was going to keep that promise. Back then, I worked 2 jobs, day shifts at a warehouse and night shifts delivering groceries just to keep our tiny apartment. Every cent I earned went toward her future. I packed her lunches, helped with homework half asleep, and sat through every recital, no matter how tired I was. Emily used to say I was her hero, that we don't need anyone else. Daddy, it's you and me forever. Those words kept me alive through every hard day. We had our traditions. Saturday morning pancakes shaped like hearts. Sunday evening walks by the river, and our dream jar, where we wrote goals on scraps of paper. Hers were always about college, about making me proud. Mine were simpler, to see her happy, to give her a better life than I ever had. Now, she's 21, graduating college with honors. I still can't believe it. I've been secretly saving for 3 years to buy her a used car as a graduation gift. I can already picture her face when she sees it, the shock, the tears, that laugh. That sounds just like her mother's used to before everything went wrong. For the first time in years, life feels full circle. We made it through everything, the poverty, the heartbreak, the loneliness, or at least I thought we had. Because just when everything seemed perfect, a name I'd tried to forget found its way back into my life, Laura. When I first saw Laura's name flash across my phone, I thought it was a mistake. 16 years of silence, and suddenly she was texting like we were old friends. Hey, I heard Emily's graduating. I'd love to be there. My stomach tightened. For years, I'd pictured what I'd say if she ever reached out again. But in that moment, all I could do was stare at the screen. I'm sure if I was more angry or afraid. When I told Emily, her face lit up like Christmas morning. Really, Mom wants to come? She said, voice trembling with hope. I forced a smile. Yeah, sweetheart. She says she wants to see you walk the stage. Emily hugged me so tightly I almost believed letting Laura back in. Even for one day, wouldn't ruin everything. A week later, Laura showed up with him. Greg, the man she left us for. He was tall, polished, reeking of expensive cologne and quiet arrogance. You must be doing well, he said, looking around my modest living room like it was a thrift store. I kept my voice steady. We've managed just fine. Emily was over the moon. She couldn't stop smiling, introducing them to her friends, showing them around like royalty. Every time she called Laura Mom, something inside me twisted tighter. I reminded myself this was about Emily, not me. She deserved her mother's love, even if that love had an expiration date before. Before leaving that evening, Greg clapped a hand on my shoulder. You've done a great job, man. But family should present a united front, right? He winked like we were teammates in some unspoken competition. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table staring at the graduation invitation on the fridge. For the first time in years, I felt like a guest in my own daughter's life. And deep down, quiet dread whispered. Laura didn't just come to visit, she came to reclaim something. It started with little things at first missed dinners. Unanswered texts, calls that went straight to voicemail. Emily, who used to FaceTime me every night just to tell me about her day, now only messaged when she needed something. Sorry, Dad, I'm with Mom and Greg tonight. We're trying out this new restaurant. Or, Greg surprised me with tickets to a concert train check on movie night. I told myself it was just excitement. After all, she'd gone her whole life without her mother. Maybe she was catching up. But the more time she spent with them, the more distant she became with me. One night I tried to bring it up gently. Hey, Em, we haven't had dinner together in a while. How about Friday? She sighed, eyes glued to her phone. Dad, don't take it personally. Greg's just really trying, you know? He wants to be part of the family. Her words stung more than she realized. Part of the family. Like there was still a family for him to join. I wanted to tell her about the nights I sat up with her when she was sick, Or the years I skipped meals to keep her fed, but what would that sound like? Bitterness? Guilt? A week later, I stopped by her apartment to drop off some mail. When she opened the door, I noticed a brand new laptop on her desk, the same one she'd been saving for. "Greg said I needed a proper one for grad school," she said casually. Noticing my stare, I nodded, forcing a smile that barely held together. That night, I checked her social media, something I hadn't done in years. Her new profile picture hit me like a punch. Emily between Laura and Greg, all three of them beaming. The caption reading, "My family." My throat tightened. Somewhere along the line, it stopped being part of the picture. I tried to focus on the positives. Emily was graduating with honors. I told myself it didn't matter who was around her as long as she was happy. I even started planning her surprise. I'd spent years saving for that carvery extra hour. Every weekend shift, and I imagined how her face would light up when she saw the keys in my hand. A week before the ceremony, Laura invited me to dinner to talk about the graduation plans. Against my better judgment, I went. We sat at a fancy restaurant I could barely afford, and Greg ordered for everyone like he owned the place. "Emily's big day deserves class," he said, raising a glass of wine. "We're hosting a private dinner at the Ridge afterward, just family." I smiled politely, but something felt off. "Sounds nice," I said. "Just tell me the details, and I'll be there." Laura hesitated, exchanging a look with Greg before saying, "Actually, it might be a bit tight. It's mostly people from Greg's work, and the space is limited." I stared at her, trying to process the words. Emily jumped in quickly, her voice soft. "Dad, it's not like that. Greg's sponsoring the whole event. It's kind of his gift to me. It's just easier if it's one side of the family, you know? No drama, no drama." That's what my presence had become, potential drama. I forced a smile, even as something inside me cracked. "Of course," I said quietly. "Wouldn't want to make things complicated." Greg leaned back, smug, and said, "Don't take it personally, man. We just want her to feel supported." The word tasted bitter. When I got home that night, the half-wrapped car keys sat on the counter. For the first time, I didn't feel excitement. I felt foolish. Somewhere between all the sacrifices and the sleepless nights, my daughter had started building a life where I no longer fit, and she didn't even notice it happening. The next morning, I made coffee and opened my laptop, hoping to distract myself with work. Instead, the first thing I saw was a photo that made my stomach drop. It was Emily's graduation rehearsal. She was standing between Laura and Greg, both dressed up, holding flowers. The caption read, "So proud of my parents. Thank you for everything." My hands froze over the keyboard. Parents, not mom and dad. Not even a mention. I kept rereading the caption until the words blurred. My chest burned like someone had quietly replaced me in my own story. I called her right away. "Emily," I said, voice trembling, "I saw your post." She sighed like I'd just interrupted something important. "Dad, please don't make this a big deal. A big deal? You called Greg your father. After everything, stop." She snapped. "Greg's been there for me lately. He helped me with my grad school application, bought my laptop, paid for the dinner. You don't get to act like you're the only one who's ever done something for me." The words hit harder than I expected. For a moment, all I could hear was the hum of my old refrigerator and my own heartbeat in my ears. "I did everything for you, Emily," I said quietly. "I know," she said, softer now. "But Greg's more stable. I just need to move forward, okay? Stable?" The man who broke our home apart was now the stable one. Before I could say another word, she added, "Look, it's probably better if you skip the ceremony. It might be awkward with everyone there." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there in silence, staring at my phone. My daughter had just uninvited me from the proudest day of her life, the day I'd sacrificed everything to make possible. And somehow, I was the one who felt like a stranger. Graduation day arrived like a storm I couldn't stop. I still woke up early, out of habit. I'd ironed my shirt the night before, even though she'd told me not to come. The car I bought for her sat in the driveway, freshly cleaned, bow-tied neatly on the hood. It was supposed to be the proudest day of my life. Instead, it felt like a funeral for the person I used to be. I drove to the ceremony anyway. not to make a sin just to see her from afar. I parked down the street from the auditorium, close enough to hear the music, but far enough not to be noticed. Through the gates, I spotted her walking with Greg beside her. He held her arm proudly, grinning at the cameras. She was glowing, radiant in her cap and gown, and she looked nothing like the little girl who used to ride on my shoulders. When her name was called, my heart swelled despite everything. I whispered to no one, "That's my girl." Then, as if on cue, Greg stood and shouted her name, waving a bouquet of roses while Laura filmed. Everyone clapped. Emily turned, smiling at them with the kind of joy I used to know was meant for me. I stayed until the photos started. That's when it hit hardest, Emily between Laura and Greg, the three of them laughing under a banner that read, "Congratulations, it's a class of 2025. I watched her hug him. I watched him kiss the top of her head. And for the first time, I realized she didn't even notice I was gone. I sat in my car for a long time afterward, listening to the muffled cheers fade in the distance. Then I started the engine and drove away, no destination, no plan. Just a father finally accepting that love, no matter how deep, can't survive being forgotten. The days after the graduation felt hollow. The house was too quiet, the phone too still. I used to check my messages every few minutes, hoping for a text from Emily, some small apology, some acknowledgement, but nothing came. Not even a photo from the ceremony. It was as if I'd been erased from her story completely, so I stopped reaching out. At first, it felt unnatural, like trying to breathe underwater. Every instinct in me screamed to fix things, to call her, to explain how deeply she'd hurt me. But then another voice, one I hadn't listened to in years, whispered, "Stop chasing people who don't look back." I threw myself into small, quiet things. Early morning walks. Cooking meals I actually took the time to taste. I found an old guitar in the attic and restrung it, fingers clumsy but determined. For the first time in decades, my life wasn't orbiting around someone else's needs. It was uncomfortable but freeing. One evening, I went through the storage boxes under my bed, old drawings, school projects, Father's Day cards. One in particular stopped me cold. Emily had written in shaky handwriting, "Daddy, you're my hero. Promise, we'll always be together." I sat there for a long time, staring at the faded crayon lines before tossing it into the fireplace. The paper curled and darkened, just like every promise I'd held on to too long. I also made a decision. I had a savings account, one I'd built slowly over the years, meant for Emily's grad school. I transferred it into my name, every cent. I told myself it wasn't revenge. It was reclaiming something that was mine, the years, the effort, the love. For once I didn't feel guilt, just quiet. Heavy, honest quiet. And deep down I knew something had finally shifted. A few weeks later, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Laura. Her voice trembled, the same false sweetness I used to fall for. "Hey, I wouldn't be calling unless it was important," she began. "Greg's going through something. There's been an investigation at his firm. Fraud or something stupid. They froze our accounts." I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said evenly. "We'll figure it out," she continued quickly, "but Emily's in a panic. Her rent's due, and Greg can't access anything right now. I know you've always helped her before." "There it is," I cut in. The ask. Laura went quiet. Then she sighed, switching tactics. "She's still your daughter, you know. She needs you." When I hung up, my hands were shaking, but not from anger. From clarity. For years, I'd carried this invisible debt, the idea that I owed everyone my patience, my forgiveness, my resources. But for once, I didn't move to fix it. The next day, Emily called. Her voice was small, like a child again. "Dad, can I stay with you for a while? Just until Greg's situation clears up?" My chest tightened, but I stayed calm. "You have a place with your mom and Greg," I said. "There. Not talking right now," she whispered. "Please, I just need some help." I thought of every night I'd gone without sleep to make sure she never felt abandoned. Then I thought of that graduation post, the one where Greg was dad. "I already gave you everything I could, Emily," I said quietly. "I can't do it anymore." The line was silent for a few seconds. Then she whispered, "I get it," before hanging up. For the first time, I didn't feel like the one left behind. I felt free. A week later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Emily stood there, eyes swollen, makeup smudged. The confident young woman I'd seen on graduation day, replaced by someone lost. She didn't even try to speak at first. She just broke down. "Greg's gone," she sobbed. "He took everything. Mom's freaking out. I don't know what to do." I stepped aside and let her in, quietly, without saying a word. She sat at the table, hugging herself like she was trying to hold her life together. "He said we were safe," she murmured. "He said he'd take care of me." There was a time when I would have reached across the table, told her everything would be okay, started figuring out how to fix it. But that man was gone. "I'm sorry you're going through this," I said softly. "But you need to learn something, Emily. People who buy your loyalty with gifts will take it back the moment it's inconvenient." She looked up, tears streaking her face. "I know I hurt you, Dad. I was stupid. I thought I was getting a real family." "You had one?" I said, my voice calm but steady. "You just didn't see it." She nodded slowly, as if each word cut a little deeper. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. "Are you still going to pay for my grad school?" I can't afford it now." I looked her straight in the eyes. "No, Emily, that money's gone. I closed the account." She blinked, stunned. "You what?" "I donated it," I said, "to a scholarship fund for single fathers raising daughters, ones who don't have anyone else." Her lips parted, but no words came out. The silence between us said everything. For the first time in years, I wasn't the powerless one. News of Greg's downfall spread faster than I expected. His company was being sued by investors, and local papers were calling him the suburban con man. Every week, new details came out: embezzlement, shell accounts, lies stacked on lies. Laura's social circle evaporated overnight. The woman who once flaunted her luxury vacations was now selling jewelry online just to stay afloat. I watched it all unfold from a distance. No satisfaction, no gloating, just a strange, quiet closure. For years, I'd begged life to be fair. Now it finally was, in its own cruel way. Emily's social media changed, too. The smiling family photos vanished, replaced with vague posts. "Sometimes love blinds you. Family doesn't always mean loyalty," people commented with sympathy. But I knew the truth: she wasn't mourning Greg's betrayal. She was mourning the fantasy she'd built around him. One evening, while paying bills online, I saw a notification from the scholarship foundation I'd donated to. They'd used the money to fund tuition for 3 single dads' daughters. There were photos, smiling girls holding certificates, proud fathers beside them. For the first time in a long while, I felt genuine peace. The money had gone where it was needed, not where it would be wasted. A mutual friend texted me a few days later, "Hey, did you hear Laura's trying to reach you? She wants to clear the air." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to clear. Some debts don't need to be repaid. They just need to end. As I sat on the porch that night, a cool breeze passed through the quiet street. For years, I'd been haunted by the sound of slammed doors, Laura leaving, Emily walking away, memories shutting themselves off. But now, the silence didn't hurt. It felt like space to breathe, to rebuild, to finally live for myself. And deep down, I knew the story wasn't over. Not yet. It was late afternoon when Emily showed up again. I'd just finished mowing the lawn, the air thick with the smell of cut grass and summer heat. When I saw her standing at the gate, part of me almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the confident, entitled girl who had once brushed me aside. She looked smaller, no humbled, uncertain. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I nodded, motioning toward the porch. We sat without speaking for a long time, the only sound, the hum of distant traffic. Finally, she said, "I'm sorry, Dad, for everything. I thought Greg cared about me. I thought Mom had changed. I just wanted a normal family." Her voice cracked on the last word, and for a moment, I saw flashes of the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest after bad dreams. I swallowed hard. You had a family, Emily. You just didn't realize it. Tears filled her eyes. I know, I was so stupid. I said things I didn't mean. I hurt you, you did, I interrupted softly. But you were also chasing something that never existed. Your mom always wanted appearances. Greg wanted control. You got caught in the middle. She wiped her face, whispering, "Can you forgive me?" I took a slow breath. Forgiveness doesn't mean things go back to how they were. It just means I'm not carrying the pain anymore. She looked at me, searching for warmth I couldn't offer. Does that mean we can start over? I shook my head gently. No, Emily. It means we can move on with truth between us this time. She nodded, though her eyes filled with quiet heartbreak. As she stood to leave, she said, "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn that." When the door closed behind her, I sat in silence, knowing that, for once, I didn't feel broken. I just felt done. A year passed. The seasons turned, the noise faded, and life settled into something peaceful. I'd moved to a smaller house near the coast, a quiet place where the mornings smelled of salt and the nights were filled with waves instead of memories. I didn't think much about the past anymore. It had become like an old scar, faint, but still there if you looked closely enough. Then one morning, a letter arrived. The handwriting stopped me, cold, neat, deliberate, unmistakably Emily's. I hesitated before opening it, heart caught between dread and nostalgia. Inside was a simple note. "Dad, I finally understand. You didn't walk away because you stopped loving me. You walked away because I stopped deserving the love you gave so freely. I'm working now, teaching, paying my own rent. I'm learning what real stability looks like. I hope one day I can be the kind of person you are. Love, Emily." I read it 3 times before setting it down. There was no apology, no request, just acknowledgement. It was enough. I framed the letter beside an old photo of her at age 7, holding her first report card, gap-toothed grin lighting up her face. Beneath it, I placed a sticky note I'd written years ago, a promise to myself. Raise her with love. Let her go with grace. That evening I walked along the shoreline, the sky painted gold and blue. I thought about how love changes, not vanishes. It just reshapes itself into something quieter, something that doesn't demand to be noticed. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need apologies. I just needed peace, and I finally had it. As I watched the tide roll in, I whispered, "You'll always be my daughter, Emily, but this time I'm choosing me." And for the first time in years, I meant it.